many of the Saskatun Ukrainians, they invited and helped their family members, their friends to come to arrive in Saskatoon. They opened their houses for them. And you will be surprised how many people who don't have Ukrainian families or friends, just they opened their houses.
Hello, I'm Eric Anderson. The voice you just heard belongs to Lyudmila Pastashenko from the Saskatoon Open Door Society. She is one of the many voices you'll hear as we focus on Ukrainian newcomers in Season 5, Episode 8 of YXC Underground. It has been just over a year since Ukrainians began arriving in Saskatoon, fleeing from war with Russia and arriving with very little to start their new lives in our community. There have been many stories chronicling the efforts of people and organizations to help Ukrainians not only arrive safely, but to set them up for success in Saskatoon, and all are worth celebrating. For this episode, I wanted to highlight the efforts of people you may not know, but their work is helping Ukrainian newcomers find safety and security here in Saskatoon. You are going to meet 4 amazing people in this episode. We will visit Travis Hominek and Shauna Tilbury at the Saskatoon Public School Division's Newcomer Student Center. We will find out why Linda Rudacek is working so hard to find affordable housing for Ukrainian families. And we will start the podcast with a trip to the Saskatoon Open Door Society to meet Lyudmila Pastashenko.
This is a Ukrainian necklace. We call it gerdan. It's a beaded necklace with beautiful flowers on it. It means a lot to me because it was a gift from my sister like 15 years ago. And yeah, it's my precious necklace. I love it.
Oh, and you put it on special for this interview.
That's right.
Why did you do that?
I just like it, and it makes me pretty.
On July 1st, 2007, Lyudmila arrived in Saskatoon from her home in southwest Ukraine. She did not speak a word of English and did not have any job prospects, but that did not stop her from volunteering at various organizations and learning the English language. In 2011, she started working at the Saskatoon Open Door Society, an organization that has been supporting refugees and newcomers in Saskatoon for more than 40 years. Lyudmila is the team leader for the Settlement and Family Support Unit and has been very busy this past year helping Ukrainians arriving in Saskatoon. She does a wonderful job in our conversation detailing all the different supports Ukrainian newcomers need when they first arrive, and clearly her background makes her an incredible first point of contact for newcomers. It also makes talking about the war and the past year difficult, and you'll hear Lyudmila's emotions come to the surface near the end of our conversation. I want to thank Lyudmila for agreeing to be on the podcast, as I do think her work and dedication are worth celebrating. She is kind and compassionate and doing really important work. We sat down in a meeting room on the second floor of the Open Door Society, and I started by asking Lyudmila if Ukrainian newcomers are thankful when they come to Saskatoon.
Oh yeah, they were so thankful, and they were happy and blessed to be in the peaceful country, in the safe environment where we have no bombing, no mass shooting, no mines in the ground. They were telling me that it feels like in heaven after what they went through, even in the first month or two. Like it was different, very different, and they were so thankful to be here in Canada, in Saskatoon, and just to have this chance to come to a different country, to Canada.
Did they know a lot about Saskatoon before they arrived here?
No, not a lot. Sometimes nothing, sometimes very little, unless they have relatives or friends in Saskatoon.
Okay. And I know Saskatoon has a pretty big Ukrainian community too, doesn't it? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But I'll ask you about that in a minute. But
okay.
So when newcomers come from Ukraine and they meet with you, like what kind of work do you do with them?
Okay. At Open Door Society, we have Ukrainian-speaking counselors now, 6 counselors who are assisting newcomers from Ukraine, people fleeing from Ukraine in their own language, which is an asset. And we provide the whole spectrum of the settlement services, including we assist with applying for a social insurance number, which you need to apply for a job and to get a bank account and so on and so on. Also, we assist with applying for the government financial funds, GST. We help to apply for Saskatchewan health card, to find a family doctor, to find a dentist office, an eye doctor. We tell them, we share the information about walk-in clinics, what is ER room, where the hospital is, what do you do when you are dialing 911, like all those nuances, vaccination clinic. We assist with temporary emergency accommodation for 14 nights for those families or singles who are just arriving in Saskatoon and they don't know anyone in Saskatoon. They have no money to rent an apartment or to go to the hotel room or to find a shelter. So then when they reach out to us, we can find an accommodation for 14 nights for them. But this is emergency accommodation, and there is a process and an eligibility criteria, and it starts from the airport. Yes. So moving on, here at Open Door Society, we also provide information and we assist with application for affordable housing through Saskatoon Housing Authority. Okay? We provide information and a list of rental agencies in Saskatoon and contact numbers of Ukrainian-speaking staff at the rental agencies. Now, almost each rental agency in Saskatoon has a Ukrainian-speaking staff. Really? That's right. Also, if needed, we assist with Saskatchewan income support application, and we provide interpretation for the clients to communicate with SIS office in a daily basis. We offer bus tickets to Ukrainians in need when they have no funds even for a bus ticket in the very beginning. And I'm talking about first day, first week in Saskatoon. And later on, we are helping them to apply for discounted bus pass. And in partnership with City of Saskatoon, we have a great agreement. We do assist in applying for 1 year free access to leisure centers in Saskatoon. So this is a great partnership with City of Saskatoon. Also, we help clients to connect with the local Ukrainian community. We refer them to the food bank if needed, to the donated furniture warehouse, and to Baba's closet. We make referrals to the daycare, to schools, to the employment counselors. We connect them with volunteers within Open Door Society and outside of Open Door Society. We connect them and help them to apply for English test to determine their language level, and then to find a link class or ESL class. With Open Door Society, we have 2 link programs and teachers who are teaching there and teacher assistants, so in 2 different locations. Also, we have 2 daycares under Open Door Society where you can find a spot if it's available for the child or twins. And what else? We have a lot of family programs, and lately some of the family programs are in Ukrainian language. So we don't need to use an interpreter, because a counselor or a facilitator of, let's say, cultural bridging, or women's creative club, or men's support group, all these workers speak Ukrainian or Russian language. So this is very, very huge asset. We can help our Ukrainian clients with translation, interpretation, and notary public services as well. Also, we do make referrals to other settlement agencies and partner organizations in Saskatoon, like IWS, Global Gathering Place, Saskatchewan Intercultural Association, Ukrainian Canadian Congress, and so on and so on. I can continue non-stop.
I was gonna say, yeah, you can exhale right now. But I was just thinking as you were going through all the different partnerships and all, like you are so connected with the greater community. Do you like that part of your job, being connected with so many different parts of the community here in Saskatoon?
Yes, I love it, and it's very valuable because. In Saskatoon, we have quite a few settlement agencies, as I have mentioned them: International Women of Saskatoon, Global Gathering Place, Ukrainian Canadian Congress, Saskatoon Branch, Saskatchewan Intercultural Association, and we all work together in supporting Ukrainians. And our partnership is a great collaboration and cooperation between all settlement agencies in Saskatoon. We simply work together and help together. So we have meetings monthly, bi-weekly, if needed, quick meetings to discuss something, to support a family in crisis, or just a client who need a little bit extra help. We can email each other, we can phone each other, and there is always a support, understanding, because we all are doing the same, helping and assisting this category of people, displaced Ukrainians who are fleeing this horrible war.
Is there, and you listed off so many different services that you provide and that you work with different community partnerships. I'm wondering, is there one thing that you see with Ukrainian families that are coming here, and Ukrainian people that you need to provide them right away? Like, is there one thing, or maybe a couple main things?
Well, this is an initial settlement. Any newcomer, any Ukrainian who is arriving, they need shelter and accommodation. This is number one. They are looking for a job right away. This is number two, to find a job, to help them to find a job. And I would say health-related issues. If they have any physical, mental illnesses, this is a huge number three. Need in demand.
We touched on it a bit earlier, but the fact that Saskatoon has such and even the province has such a large Ukrainian community, how has that helped you and the Open Door Society in this past year?
Oh, we are so blessed that Saskatchewan and Saskatoon, we have a large, huge Ukrainian community. Because from the very beginning of this war, during those 13 months, many of the Saskatchewan Ukrainians, they invited and helped their family members, their friends to come, to arrive in Saskatoon. They opened their houses for them. And you will be surprised how many people who don't have Ukrainian families or friends, just they open their houses for strangers.
I appreciate you sharing that. Yes, it's overwhelming, isn't it? The generosity.
It's amazing, and they're helping with initial housing. They're just hosting a family or a person, and they're giving them rights. They're taking them to Service Canada office, to the bank, to open a bank account. Like, they're treating them as their own family.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. Yes. No, it's all good. I'll give you a moment. Yeah.
Sorry.
No. You're doing amazing. I know this is not your cup of tea at all, and you'd much rather be helping Ukrainian families and all newcomers as opposed to talking with me on the podcast. But I do appreciate your time because I think the work that you do is so important. And so thank you for taking the time. And I just have one more question. Why does this work mean so much to you?
Well, when I was a newcomer in Saskatoon, and many people were helping my family and me. And I know how important to have a person who can listen and understand your needs, who can advise, provide information, guide you, and connect you with the community and with resources. Right now, I'm helping displaced Ukrainians fleeing the war and seeking a safe haven. And if I'm able to make a positive change in their stressful life, then it means a lot to me. Working at Saskatoon Open Door Society and assisting newcomers from different countries around the world is the best job, in my humble opinion.
Aww. I love that. Thank you for taking the time out to speak with me, and thank you for doing what you say is the best job, because it's obvious that you're making a big difference. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
You're listening to episode 8, season 5 of YXE Underground. My name is Eric Anderson, and we are featuring people who have been helping Ukrainian newcomers settle in Saskatoon during the past year. Listen to YXE Underground wherever you find your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or the YXE Underground website. And follow YXE Underground on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You heard Lumila run through all the things Ukrainian newcomers need when they are settling in Saskatoon. For families with children, one of the biggest items on the to-do list is enrolling in school. And if they are enrolling with the Saskatoon Public School Division, their first stop will be the Newcomer Student Center. Located at the SPSD Central Office on 21st Street, the center meets with kindergarten to grade 12 students along with families and helps register students for classes. You will find Travis Homanek at the Newcomer Student Center. He is an English as an additional language consultant and has been working with dozens of Ukrainian students this past school year. You might also run into Shauna Tilbury at the central office. Now, she was an accomplished EAL teacher for years in the school division and is now the coordinator for learning supports, where she supports classroom EAL teachers and connects with community organizations like the Open Door Society. Both Travis and Shauna were kind enough to speak with me in the Newcomer Student Center a few weeks ago, and I started by asking Travis what his first conversations with Ukrainian newcomer families are like.
So we welcome families in our reception area, and typically that involves looking at their immigration documents to begin with. And then from there, we have multiple assessment rooms where we give an orientation of schools to families and also do a language assessment with the kids.
Wow. So what are those first conversations like with the family? And I know that the focus will, like, for this episode is on Ukrainian families, but if I think for something like this, like just families in general, what are those first conversations like?
I think lots of families are a bit nervous about the transition to school, and I'm blanking here. Families are nervous as they transition, so they've done some research in some cases, and so they have some background about school, and then they just have some clarification questions often.
Okay. And then you do an assessment as well. What happens in the assessment, Travis? So
for the language assessment, we look at a writing sample, speaking, and we also do some math, depending on the student, and reading as well.
Okay. What has this past year been like in terms of Ukrainian students coming to Saskatoon?
So this year compared to last year, we have about 55 Ukrainian students we've welcomed this year, and that's kindergarten through grade 12. Last year, in looking at the data, we had about 14 students come through our office.
Wow. Like that's a huge increase. What has that been like for you and your team, Travis?
Well, overall, our office has seen a huge increase, not just with Ukrainians, but overall. So during a typical school year, we welcome around 1,000 new students from September to June, or August to June, I should say. And this year, it's only April, and we're already at almost 1,800 students that we've seen through our office.
And you still have a couple more months to go.
Yes, we do.
What has this year been like for you?
It's been very busy. This is also my first year in this role as well. So working with a new team, new environment, and trying to get students into schools as fast as possible in the best way possible, which has been a big learning curve for me, and also just with the office with adjusting to the pace that we need to work at to get kids into schools.
I want to ask you a bit about the pace, but Shauna, can I ask you, like Travis mentioned, finding best fits for the students, and you know, Travis, when you said to like kindergarten to grade 12, like in my mind, like I'd sort of forgotten, like it's not just certain age groups coming, like it's the whole gambit. So when students are coming here, especially from a situation where they're fleeing their homes because of war, what, like can you give listeners a sense, Shauna, in terms of what these kids and families might be going through when they step foot here?
I think likely they're overwhelmed. There's a lot of information to take in, and getting your kids into school is just one piece. So we're pretty careful with how much information we give them, because we know that, you know, when your stress levels are high, you don't remember as well either. So I think, you know, generally families are excited to get their kids into school, you know, turn over a new leaf, start again, but also a little bit overwhelmed.
How like what are some of the questions that families have when they come here? Either of you can answer that.
Some of the basics, like what does lunchtime look like? What should they bring to school? The school day, what does that look like? Homework, that's a big one, and that's a shocker for lots of parents when I say homework will probably be significantly less than what they had in their home country. Usually I see big smiles at that point from lots of families. And I would say, actually, speaking about Ukrainian families, that's been a major thing I've noticed, is they have told me they had so much homework in their home country versus here will be a bit of a difference. Not that we don't have homework in our school division, but it's not assigned every night as something they have to do for hours on end in the evening. Okay. Yeah.
I think families don't know what they don't know yet. So they may not think to ask questions about things like that because it hasn't occurred to them that our system might be different than where they've come from. Yeah.
You mentioned perhaps feeling overwhelmed, and that I think that's something that everyone can empathize with. How do you break it down so that families and the kids, whether they're in grade 2 or going into grade 12, like how do you break it down so that it feels a bit more manageable?
I would say there's a couple of ways. We're pretty systematic in the information we give. We give it verbally, and then we provide them with a handout or handouts. And then we also have interpretation services through Open Door sometimes, and that helps. Or people will bring their own family members or a friend to help them, and that helps. So we try to stick to the basics here, but I think we also say too, if you have this question, follow up at the school. Occasionally, people will reach back out to the Newcomer Student Center and have a question that, they need follow-up on. But, yeah, for the most part, trying to keep it simple for people.
Okay. Is that true, Travis? Yeah.
I would agree as well. And even with the language assessment, the one thing I always tell students is it's not a test. It's just a starting place. And keeping in mind students who have been through trauma, refugees. One thing about the Ukrainian students as well that might be interesting is that they are not arriving as refugees. I think some people have that misconception. They've all come through the Canada-Ukraine Authorization Program. And so their parents are coming with work permits, and that's what makes them eligible to be in publicly funded education. So still keeping that in mind, though, they have come from a country with war. And so sometimes in that assessment, depending on how things are going, we might scale things back depending on what the student is kind of putting forward.
Oh, okay. Is that because every student's going to be different then? Is it hard from your guys' perspective to get a read on a student right away?
Depending on the kid, I mean, our goal is to get a ballpark for a language benchmark. So it's not an exact test that we do. It's just looking at all the skills and to give the teachers a starting place, basically to continue welcoming them into our school division.
I'm glad you mentioned that it's a little bit different for the Ukrainian students, and yet, have you noticed? And I know it's your first year, Travis, but have you noticed anything that makes these students unique that are coming over from Ukraine in terms of settling into Saskatoon or getting used to even thinking about school here in our city?
I think in terms of academic skills, there's certainly strong academic skills. And again, I think some people think, oh, if you've come from a country with war, maybe you have missed chunks of school. And some of these students have for sure. Many that we've welcomed have had a year or so in Poland before coming to Canada. But I certainly see they have strong academic skills. It's just a question of learning English or improving the English that they currently have.
Shauna, what do you see?
I was going to say the other thing that makes them unique is we've got such a huge Ukrainian population in Saskatchewan, so they have a network that not all refugees or immigrants have access to. So they're unique in that way that they've got a really strong network of supports typically. So that's great for them.
No kidding. And that must ease the transition, I would guess, a little bit.
And I think the community has really come out in support of the Ukrainian newcomers, which is excellent. And I wish that was the case for all newcomers when they arrive in Saskatoon or any city in Canada, because that has made the transition really seamless, I think, for lots of families.
Yeah. Having those supports, because it sounds like you guys do so much here initially, but then then you send them off to school. And then is it hard in a way to you're often first point of contact, but then you have to say goodbye to them a bit, and then is that hard at all?
I think some of the parents definitely, they seem a bit anxious about, they come here and they have a good interaction with us, and then it's now a next step to go to a school and meet another team and another support system. So I don't think it's difficult though, because I know that they will get that good support in the schools as well.
Yeah. Is it hard though, personally, Shauna, to see you're sort of, okay, good luck, and out they go?
I think the role is quite different than teaching exactly, because you don't get time to build a real relationship with families and students. So in that sense, yeah, it's a little harder than being in the classroom where you really get to know kids, and you can respond to the needs that arise when you spend more time with them. Here, like Travis said, it's a quick snapshot and ballpark, and then away they go. So yeah.
How this might be a really simple question, but how much time do you actually spend with the students?
That's a great question, actually. So in previous years, normally a family would have about an hour and a half at the Newcomer Student Center to do registration, the language assessment. But this year, with the volume of students we've had coming through, we've had to adjust our appointment times. So it depends on how many kids come to the appointment. So if there's one student, usually they're here for about an hour. 2 to 3 kids, hour and a half, 4 plus, about 2 hours.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So would that be, say, for example, a family from Ukraine comes in and there's 4 or 5 kids in the family, so then it's 2+ hours with that family?
Could be, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's kind of a group assessment then with all of the kids and doing the registration. Everything just takes longer because there's more paperwork.
Yeah. And then is there a queue? Can you see okay, we've got a busy week ahead of you, or is every week kind of busy?
Yes, we can. And that's where we really have to give Daleen credit, who really runs the office in terms of our bookings. And in the summer, she said, we're going to be busy. I can feel we're going to be busy, because she was doing the bookings. And sure enough, August was very, very busy. And this year has just continued to do so. And so as a result of that, we launched a new booking system to kind of ease families booking appointments with us so they could do it more independently if they have the technological skills to do that.
Yeah. So you're meeting families in August then?
Yes. So we opened, typically it was around August 15th, but this past summer we opened a week early. This upcoming summer we also plan to open a week early just to deal with the high volume that we're anticipating.
Wow. You two are busy.
Yes, we are.
I want to ask, so after you do all the assessments and you get to know the students a little bit, and then it's okay, now you have to choose a school. What goes into that? How do you, because there are lots of great schools within the city, how do you know which school is right for them?
Well, that's also a great question, and I'll let Travis finish up. But typically, we encourage families to choose their neighborhood school. Sometimes we get into special programming, or sometimes we'll recommend one placement versus another based on their language needs. But typically, it's the neighborhood school that we encourage them to go to.
I would just echo that. With high school, of course, there's more choice because if you want to drive across the city, you're more than welcome to. Right. But for elementary schools, it's always your neighborhood school. Lots of families have questions about the busing as well and how they get to school. Though the Ukrainians always, they've been joking. I say, oh, we have winter, it's harder to get to school. And they say, oh, no, we've come from Ukraine, it's fine. So they're used to that. Other families, they might live blocks away and they expect a school bus. So
Yeah.
different perceptions there.
Yeah. I was just curious about that because where I grew up in Swift Current, it was just the one high school. Everyone went there. Surrounding towns went there, and yet there's all this choice here in Saskatoon. When you have a situation like this where you have so many students coming from one place, and they're coming from a circumstance like they are in Ukraine, is there a sense is there any thinking behind we want to keep the students kind of together in one school, or is that even on the radar at all? Does that, or are there advantages or disadvantages to that?
We try to give them the same opportunity that our English speaking students would have, so they could go to any school they like typically. There probably are disadvantages to having them all in one group because then students tend to stick to their own kind. They don't necessarily meet other kids, and then they're also always speaking their own language. And I don't want to say that that's necessarily a bad thing, because having your own language is a comfort and it's a great way for you to kind of feel like you fit in, but it can cause some challenges in terms of maybe picking up language, or maybe being forced to pick up language a little bit more quickly. I think the other thing too is, I know in other jurisdictions they do maybe bus kids to all to one school, and then you get into the idea that maybe there's a little bit of segregation of newcomers, and there's also additional costs potentially in that scenario. If you're saying as a school division you must go to this school, then how can you say that without offering transportation? So yeah, it's delicate, but we do try to treat our newcomers as English speaking students who grew up here or who have been born here. They can generally go to whatever school they need to go to.
Thank you for answering that. I know that's kind of an out there question, but it just from our conversation, But very thoughtful answer. Thank you. And I'm wondering too, Travis, you spend so much time with these students when they come in, and you're looking for academics, and you're looking for language, and even some cases math. But so much of school is the social aspect as well. Is that something do you even have time to sort of assess that, or does that get brought up at all?
Some families do have questions about extracurricular and how they can get involved in the school, for sure. And then sometimes that does lead to their school choice, especially for high school, thinking about what programming might be offered. So certainly a factor, but the primary focus is what kind of is their language benchmark.
Yeah. We were talking beforehand in terms of not only Ukrainian students, but like you said with the numbers, it's a very busy year for you guys, and it's been a busy couple of years. Can you give listeners a sense in terms of how many newcomer students are coming here, and the demands that places on a school division?
Oh boy, that's a big question. I mean, like Travis said, we're almost double what we normally get in a school year, and so I think it doesn't take much brain power to figure out how much of a challenge that is to meet the needs in a classroom when kids are coming weekly to some of our larger schools. They're showing up weekly in bunches, and so that's challenging for teachers. And yeah, I mean, I think you should interview a teacher, but be careful, because they're going to be very tired. Teachers are very tired.
I am married to a teacher. She's tired.
Yes. Yeah. So, and as far as the school division goes, we were able to access some mid-year funding from the ministry, which helped a little. But I think you can also imagine it's more difficult to place teachers middle of the year and to figure out staffing middle of the year than it is to just have enough at the get-go and get everybody settled. But again, with that continuous intake, EAL teachers always have to revise their schedules, and this year it's been extra challenging.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What's this? And it's your first year, Travis. You're smiling.
What was your question again?
Just how busy? Are you tired too?
You know what? I like being busy. Like as a teacher, you're always busy and your mind's going in different directions. This has just been a different kind of busy in terms of more helping to run an office and making sure we're doing things in a time-efficient way, and how we can cut down on certain times for appointments and things like that. So just been a different way of being busy, but I kind of like it in that way. I like seeing that we're booked ahead. Not that it's a long time for kids to not be in school if we're booked that far ahead, but it shows me that we need to be here doing this work and to continue advocating for it as well.
Yeah, that sort of leads into my my last question in terms of like what do you both find fulfilling? Because I know you were teachers in the classroom before, but what about this role do you find so fulfilling?
I was really drawn to this role to get to meet the parents and the families. As a classroom teacher, even in EAL, you don't always get to really connect with the families in that way and talk about school and have those interactions as a group with their parents. Sometimes at interviews, but often those conversations aren't always positive, right? So this is more of a, welcome to our school division. So it's a different way of interacting with students and families. And that's one thing that also appealed about this job with being at central office as opposed to being at a school, is that I still get to work with kids every day. But kindergarten through grade 12, which is a big difference for me, coming from a high school before. So,
Shona, what do you love about the job?
Oh, my role is quite different than Travis's, so I love the variety. I get to do all sorts of different things. I'm kind of almost at arm's length now from the Newcomer Student Center. I work on a different floor, and I guess my interests lay in helping other staff members accommodate or adapt for EAL students, being an advocate, connecting with Saskatoon Open Doors Society, their partners, and just, variety, nonstop. I never know what my day is going to look like. Yeah.
Oh, I lied. I have one more question. Both of you have mentioned like the greater community, and that's one thing in doing this podcast, it's so clear that, even though we're a big city, it's a pretty connected community. And I'm just wondering, in the last year or so, with so many Ukrainian students coming over, like how have you seen sort of this big city get smaller in terms of helping out Ukrainian students?
I think one thing that the government, in conjunction with the city of Saskatoon and the city of Regina, has done is have one-stop shops for the Ukrainian newcomer students. So there was, families. So there was one in July and the second one in November, and those were right after flights arrived from Ukraine. And I believe that there was another flight that just arrived in March in Regina, and I think they had a similar situation with having a one-stop shop. So that means you can register for school, you can get your cell phone, your banking set up all in one place. So a super awesome service for the Ukrainian newcomers. Again, I would love to see that offered regularly throughout the year as kind of a hub for all newcomer families, because as Shauna said, school is one check mark on their list of things that families need to do when they arrive, and to have so many of those services offered in one spot so they can get lots of that done is really a great service.
That was well said, Travis. Shauna's giving the thumbs up.
Okay,
that was really great. Thank you both for not only taking the time out to speak with me, but clearly the work you're doing is so important. And obviously the focus of this episode is on Ukrainian students, but I think everyone in our community realizes like there are so many more newcomer students coming, and you guys have laid that out pretty clearly. So thank you for the work that you do, and I hope you get a little bit of a break this summer. A wee bit.
Well, we're opening August 9th, so it won't be too long of a break.
Well, thank you both for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is episode 8, season 5 of YXE Underground. My name is Eric Anderson, and we are about to meet the final guest in this special episode, featuring people who have been helping Ukrainian newcomers settle in the community this past year. Listen to YXE Underground wherever you find your favorite podcasts, and don't forget to leave a 5-star review if you like what you hear. As you know, the title of this podcast is YXE Underground, which means the focus is on people making a difference here in Saskatoon. But in doing research for this episode, I was introduced to a woman in Rostern, Saskatchewan, who is doing such amazing work to bring Ukrainian newcomers safely to our province that I just had to meet her. And after spending an afternoon with her at her Rostern home, it became clear that she needed to be a part of this episode. Plus, Rostern is just a half hour north of Saskatoon, so we'll make an exception this time. Linda Rudacek is her name, and she is a third-generation Ukrainian who worked as a social worker for years in Weyburn, Saskatchewan, before retiring with her family in Rostern. Linda's Ukrainian roots run deep. When she greeted me at the door, the colors of the Ukrainian flag were pinned to her shirt, and she has felt a lot of emotions since the war started. What amazes me about Linda is how she has channeled those emotions to do so much good in bringing Ukrainian families to Rostern, which, as you are about to hear, is not an easy endeavor. There will be moments in our conversation where you'll just shake your head and wonder, how is she doing all of this? Linda and I sat down at her kitchen table in Rostern while her dog, who makes an appearance about halfway through our conversation, slept in the living room. I started by asking what was going through her mind when the war in Ukraine started last year.
I'm a crier, and so excuse me if I cry a little bit. We'll see today, but it was overwhelming. All my grandparents came from Ukraine. We're third generation Canadians, but Ukrainian being Ukrainian has sort of been one of my things that I'm most proud of. We grew up in a home where the traditions were very strong. Our faith, Ukrainian Orthodox, was very strong, and carried it throughout life. I lived in a Ukrainian residence at university. Just everything is Ukrainian. And then my children danced all the years, and we did a lot of Ukrainian traditional cultural things in Weyburn, and we've continued to do that. And now my my grandchildren, they identify as Ukrainian, which they're not full-blood Ukrainian, but if you ask them what they are, they're Ukrainian. So it's really important, and it was overwhelming. And I think honestly, my babas and my Guidos, my mom and dad, were working through myself, in that I saw it myself, and we're just urging that we have to do something. I couldn't watch the news. It got too much. Like right from the beginning, I couldn't watch what was happening when the bombs were falling and the kids were dying, and so anyway, we did our first fundraisers for humanitarian efforts there, and then of course things weren't slowing down at all like we hoped, and then I decided to get a group together in Rostern to do something that we can to move some Ukrainians here.
What you were telling me before, there was a fundraiser you did pretty soon after the war started, and it got big, didn't it?
It became a monster on steroids, and there was just two of us. My sister and I were doing it, and my sister lives here as well. And people just jumped, like people were just contacting us out of nowhere. Like once it kind of got on Facebook, through Facebook, contacting us, and could they donate something? Could they donate something for auction? Could they do then? Not only that, and then big bids for little things, but actually it wasn't really little things; they were beautiful things. And then lots of then people said, "I just want to donate," so they sent us money. So yeah, we raised $35,000 in a week. Yeah.
What does that like at the time? Like, what did that? I don't know if teach you is the right word, or what did that show you in terms of like, the support that was out there for Ukrainians?
Well, it was overwhelming because being a Ukrainian was not in fashion. When my mom and dad were growing up, certainly it was. They were called names, and they were not treated well as a group, and So we were taught that we have to, come out of this idea of Anglo-Saxon people of being garlic snapping Galicians, and I think it wasn't only in my family, because all of my friends and we were taught that we had to be educated, like highly educated, and we had to build our communities, and so, like, people, Ukrainians were downtrodden in, a little bit before my time, but my time too. Like, we were called names inside, by the Anglo-Saxon community sometimes. And so now, when this happened, and we are living in a primarily Mennonite community, a beautiful Mennonite community, and we were overwhelmed. We were completely overwhelmed by people who were just reaching out. Like, obviously, it had really caught people's attention. Because, I mean, there's always some kind of tragedy happening. So, and this one really, all you had to do is post a picture of some child being lifted off the streets in Ukraine, and there'd be a few more messages of help. What can we do to help? Yeah.
You mentioned people reaching out in this community. I'm so curious for you, because you're here in Rosthern, and yet you are reaching out to newcomer families in Saskatoon. Linda, can you explain how, like, maybe when that started, and maybe why you wanted to go, from a Facebook fundraiser that did very, very well to helping families that were coming over from Ukraine?
Okay, we my personality is, I guess I'm a little bit out there, and talk to lots of people, and so we had done a bunch of work around the food bank, and that was like a miracle how much money we were able to raise to create this food bank. And so actually I went to certain people that I know very well who are workers, and that's the way I've operated all my life. I've surrounded myself by earth angels, and totally. And so we developed a community committee, a really diverse committee of young people, not very many elderly, but young people who are workers and just get out there and do things. And so we decided that yes, we would like to help with placement of people. Now we have no housing in Weyburn. Weyburn, I always go back to Weyburn. We got a ton of support from Weyburn people because of connections there. There's no housing here. That is a fact of life in Rosthern. But our first meeting of the people that we recruited to be on this committee, I recruited, of course, the manager of Sask Housing to be on our committee, and he said, that was our first thing, is we want to bring somebody here. Well, where are we going to put them? Because there's no rental, there's there's nothing. And he said, you know what? Anyway, he said, you guys, a house has come available. It was just like a miracle from heaven. This house came available in housing, like a 3-bedroom home, came available that day. And the provincial government had set a policy. I don't know how many people in the world know it, but we knew it because of Kevin, that the Ukrainian displaced people had the first dibs on Sask housing. So whoever was on the waiting list before, the displaced people from Ukraine went up to the top. And so this house was there for us. So our committee decided that we would sponsor two families to come. That's what we had decided. And then so we had to fundraise. That's huge. It was a lot of money. We had to fundraise quickly, and within a month we had about $40,000 raised in cash.
May I ask? This might seem like a silly question, but how much does it cost to sponsor a family to come to a place like Rosthern?
It cost us about $20,000 to $25,000, because what our commitment to them was for that we would support them totally for 3 months totally, and then at the end, hopefully of 3 months, that they would have employment and be able to support themselves. And so it's about 20 to 25,000 per family. So we had to do a lot of fundraising, and we ended up we decided on 2 families. We ended up bringing 3 at various stages of our process. But the first family, and it was, I was working. I shouldn't say it's we, but I was the chair of the group, working through Ukrainian Congress of Canada. Again, it was the agency that the government kind of appointed as the placement people in Saskatchewan, which was very good. I know the work of them, the group, and they're extremely good. And so they were given money to hire extra staff and whatnot. So that's who we contacted to say we're interested, and let us know when somebody comes available. So I first of all got a email from UCC and said, we have a family, Linda. And then the dad immediately emailed me, and it was a mom and a dad and 6 children, and she was pregnant. It was like, whoa, okay. And they were from eastern Ukraine, so right by the Russian border. So they were bombed. And to hear the stories now, it just breaks your heart what they lived through. So that was our first family, and we didn't have, this house was not quite in it was okay, it's a nice house, but it wasn't looked after very well. And so we had to do major renovations, painting, and lots of renovations to make it nice. And it was our goal was that they were not gonna be having used beds, it was brand new beds for everybody. We just few of them get the heebie-jeebies from me getting used beds and stuff. So that was one of our things, and that they would have good furniture and good sets of dishes and new sets of pots and not just sort of thrift store stuff. Yeah, it was important for us. So anyway, we just with volunteers, with our committee and volunteers, with our students from Rostron Junior College, we got them involved with us. One day we'll do a big work B2. So within about a week, we had that house ready to go.
When did that happen, Linda?
That was in May, because they were coming within 4 days. We had 4 days to get ready, and so we weren't going to have those ready in 4 days. So there's a little cottage here, or a B&B cottage that we rented for 4 nights until we got the house ready, and we wouldn't let them go to the new house. And they stayed in that cottage, and then we moved them. We had a big production of moving them all over. But yeah, getting to the airport, we went to the airport. This place is like a zoo today. It's not usually like this. So anyway, we got several of our committee. They were coming in on Sunday night to the airport, and before this we were just emailing, the dad and myself were emailing. He could speak a little bit of English, thank God. And my Ukrainian is not very okay, but it sure got better fast. So we went, and we had flags, and they came through the door. I mean, you got a family of this many people with a pregnant mom, and the kids. The twins are 2, 5, 9, 14, 18, pregnant mom and dad, and all we did was start to cry. Everybody.
And this was at the airport?
Mm-hmm. We just started to, the doors open there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know it's them. Well, it's pretty much off, last off the plane. And some people on the plane had noticed from the plane, because they said, you waiting for your family, for a family from Ukraine? We said, yes. Oh, they're so nice. And so a lot of these people had stayed to watch. It was really like these strangers had just stayed to watch this interaction. And then one woman, as she went running to the car, she said, just wait, I don't know who in the hell she was or where she came from, but they had come off the plane. She said, I got to go get the car. So she brought these set of earrings, these beautiful earrings for the 9-year-old. She said, I want to give this to this little girl here. And they were crying, and everybody's bawling. And so we had we had gotten, RJC has these 14-passenger vans to haul their kids around to things. So they lent us the van, and so we got everybody. But they came with backpacks. That's all. Nothing else. Nothing.
At the airport, Linda, like was this overwhelming for you? Because I'm trying to picture, like, this is in May, and so like February, March, April. So literally like 4 months after the war started, you're doing this. 5-6 months ago, I'm sure this was the last thing on your mind that you would be doing, and yet you're there at the airport. And like, did you have a moment to sort of step back and think like, oh my gosh, like look at what we're doing, or is there too much happening in that moment?
In that moment, there's just too much happening, too much emotion. Yeah. We were just, I think there was about 5 of us from our committee who had gone that night, that could go that night. And we were just all sort of giddy, actually, and just so excited to actually see. Because we had one picture from the email of them, and that's all we knew. And they were just beautiful. Like, they were just so beautiful, just so beautiful. Like, a very handsome dad, and then all these kids, and then these twins, and overwhelmed. And then we sang the Ukrainian anthem for them. And then they sang too. And of course, everybody's watching. There's lots of noise there. And then, so it was just so emotional. So emotional, and you just think, oh, you poor people, you are coming. You've come across the world with a knapsack on your back. That's all you have. Nicely dressed, cleanly dressed. It was kind of a surreal moment, really. Yeah.
May I ask, how are they doing?
Oh, they're doing beautifully. They just live across the field from us here. They love the house. And she doesn't speak any English. He spoke English. He was a seaman. He is a seaman. And he was working off the coast of Singapore when the bombs started flying. Yeah, because he goes for about 2 months at a time, and he's first mate on these ships that do oil checking for oil rigs and stuff under the sea. So off among, this is like, huh? So thank God he can speak a little English to tell us. But he speaks English because he says it's international people on the boats. Mama and the kids spoke no English, nothing. So it was all, and he could interpret a little bit, but we try. We are Ukrainian, and they're Russified Ukrainian because they were close to Russian border. She particularly she speaks a lot of a Russian mix and stuff, but they are so happy. They love the small town. They wanted to come in this area. They wanted a small town. We got the kids involved right away in some, we couldn't send them to school because they said it was too late for them to start. But we got them, in the library program and any kind of little programs we could get the kids into. The boy, the old 16-year-old, we got him into the private school, our Rosser Junior College. I don't know if you know anything about RJC, but it's an amazing private school, amazing. And he doesn't like school. He never liked school from the moment that's what they said. Vlad doesn't like school. He hates school. And we took him for a tour, and took them all for a tour, and he absolutely adores school. It's just that kind of school. The two girls are in community school, right? And one's in kindergarten, one's in grade 4. They're Ukrainian dancing. They never did Ukrainian dancing in their lives. They came here and they're in Ukrainian dancing. And the twins are active little 2 and 3 year olds, the cute as buttons. Mama lost baby 3 weeks after they got here. That was a really hard thing to go through. She'd never had a miscarriage before, but I think just everything it was just too much, and the trip, and so that for me it was because I've lost 5 babies in my life, and so I walked with them through the process right from the beginning. So thank God I had that, because I was able to. You didn't even need language, but I was in the hospital with them, and when it all happened, and then we have a part of our we have a memorial cemetery for children who were not born, so through miscarriage, through stillbirth, or through abortion, and it's a set aside in a grove of trees, and it's a rose garden memorial site, with a bench, and we just set that up about 2 years ago, and all our babies are resting there, because we never did sort of finish it up, and it's a hard thing to explain. So anyway, so we have their little Katya. We said, "What would you name your baby?" And they said Katya, and so then we had a little ceremony and a blessing, and so that they could lay their baby to rest here, and so it was very, and then a bunch of the committee came for that, so it was very emotional. And yeah, so that's one family, and they're happy. But he's still continuing to go, because he makes very good money with this sailing. We laugh at him; he's the only seaman in Saskatchewan. And then we told him to go check out the ferry system here. And have you been to the ferry system? He went to St. Laurent first, and if that boat goes once a day, it's
a little different than the high seas of like the South Pacific and stuff. Just a bit, Linda.
We were laughing at him. Yeah.
It's clear, and like you said, this is just one family, but like you've made, and thank you for sharing so much. Like you have such a bond with this family, and like, is it like this is hard. This is hard work that you're doing, and I know you're not alone in doing it here. But I get the impression that you're one of the point people for doing it. Yeah. So why is this so important to you, Linda?
Well, I can't stand this. Never have been able to stand people suffering, going without. And you can't save the whole world. Learn that, pretty clearly in my career. But so you do what you can with what you got, and it's just, it's just that Ukrainian whatever coming out, and I don't, I've been involved with the people from Burma, who came, the refugees from Burma, and settling them here, because we have a lot of Burmese here. The churches that was a thing for a while, but it's not the same. I love them dearly. They can't speak English still. They've been here 10 years, and it's a whole different world. These folks, they want to be here. They're just thankful beyond belief. They're humble beyond belief. Like, I think this first family, we're well off. where they came from, because he makes really good money, and had a really beautiful home, and they're just humble and thankful, and we are totally joined. Like, yeah, she tells me in Ukrainian, "You're like my mama, like my Canadian mama."
How does that make you feel?
That just makes me feel wonderful. Yeah, and I'm trying to get the kids to call me Baba, because that's Ukrainian. That's what we call your grandma here, but they have a different word for it there. Baba is not the nicest word in Ukraine. They call babusia more so, and here I'm Baba. I'm proud to be Baba. So anyway, they don't call me. They just talk to me, or just talk or look.
Linda, you've been very generous with your time, and you've invited me to your home out here in Roston. So thank you for all this. Before I let you go though, I want to know, like, it's like you're still doing work. Like what kind of, how are you still helping families? And it's clear like you have connections with the families here, but how are you still involved with this effort? Because unfortunately the war is still happening, and so
it's happening.
Yeah.
And Oksana and Pavlo, that's the mom and dad. They just because we visit, and all the community. Honestly, they took them each person took this family as their own too. So they would invite them up to the farms. They got to go harvesting. They did the whole harvesting with one family. One family gave them their cabin at Emma Lake for a week to take their kids out. And so people they've taken them in. But we just had a visit here on Friday, and they're saying that the Europeans and the people from Poland and who have been just so good to our people, and they're not being that way anymore. They've had enough. They feel they've given enough, so they're not that welcome in the European nations now. So like that, then it just makes me, when I see somebody come up on Facebook of another family, it just makes me makes me crazy, because I just want, and I'm surrounded by this group of angels, and we're all of the same. Like we're just about out of money. We spent all our money, and fundraising is not that easy, and we just want to take another family, but we know we can't. We have two, and the second one was a soldier, a border guard. She's 28-year-old woman. She's pregnant. She was pregnant. She was 34 weeks pregnant, and again we had 1 week to get ready for her to come. Her partner had to stay there to fight. He was fighting, but she was able, because she wanted to have the baby here because they were bombing hospitals and stuff. So she came, and she lived with us for a little over a week. With her, we decided to host her, have somebody that she could live with until the baby was born. It's different than setting her up in her own house, because it's too much. Yeah. So she stayed with us for a while, and then we had a permanent host. And then she's now on her own. We did a birth. It had to be the Babas in the labor room with this little thing. She's 28 years old, and she looks like she's 14, and she's this big with this little basketball baby. But she's on her own now, and Rusty is our baby. Everybody's on the committee. Everybody has to babysit him and fight over him, and yeah, it's unreal. And he's ours. Like, he's ours, she's ours. Just like family. Yeah. Thank you for not only inviting me and sharing your story, but clearly for the work that you and your colleagues are doing. And I see the Ukrainian colors over your heart. So yeah. It's torn. Ukraine is torn right now, but it's going to come back together. And we've people wear them around. Just still lots of people, but now it's getting a little bit, there's a little more apathy because people are so used to already, like, it's not ending and it's not ending, and people are either getting really, really riled up or a little bit apathetic and watching other tragedies. But this one still is on people's heads. Yeah. We've had a couple of prayer services. Not that I'm the most religious person in the world, but prayer services for Ukraine, and we're having one on the 20th. And it's a little bit different because there's no Orthodox church. This is a church town. There's every kind of church you can imagine, and some, but no Orthodox church, Ukrainian Orthodox. And so we're having the 2 Orthodox priests from Saskatoon coming to do a prayer service in the Orthodox tradition, because it's different than Catholic or Mennonite, and everybody will get together, and it'll be everybody getting together. It doesn't matter what religion they're from. And yeah, we had one and it was beautiful, and this one will be too. Yeah. Pray for them. So,
Linda, thank you.
You're welcome. So welcome. I could talk all day, but it's enough.
You have been listening to Episode 8, Season 5 of YXE Underground. My name is Eric Anderson. I host, produce, and edit this local independent podcast, and I want to thank all of my guests for sharing their stories and passion for helping others. Linda, Travis, Shauna, and Ludmila, thank you so much for the work that you do and for appearing on the podcast. You can listen to YXE Underground wherever you find your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or the YXE Underground website. And follow YXE Underground on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I want to thank Saskatoon's Danger Dynamite for maintaining the website, and to my cousin Andrew Dixon for providing the original theme music. Before I go, I would like to acknowledge that these interviews were conducted on Treaty 6 territory and the traditional homeland of the Metis. YXE Underground is a production of the Salthammer Production Company. My name is Eric Anderson. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon, Saskatoon.